Hi friends, it's Monday, January 6th at about 8:45 in the morning. I'm excited to be here to talk with you about astrology, the astrology of today, answer any of your questions. It's sort of a big day. There's a lot going on astrologically, and it is sort of a turning point in the month. I think that we are really sort of officially getting into this new year today. Um, it does feel like a new year, doesn't it? It's always nice when the astrology of the day actually happens to match up with the calendar, which tends to be quite random and doesn't always necessarily harmonize with anything in nature, like a change of season or anything like that when we get into a new year. But yeah, it is funny to notice the way in which so many planets being at late degrees, Pluto being newly in Aquarius. Here, it really does feel like a new year. I think what I'm going to do is pull up, I don't want to just be pointing all the time. So I think I'm going to pull up a little magnifier here, and then I can just use that to move that around as I'm talking, which is sort of helpful for um, clarity, I think. How is everyone? How are you today? I love having this opportunity with this kind of work to get to know all of you all a little better and connect in a more casual way. You know, I definitely take a lot of notes from my monthly horoscopes and do a lot of editing. So it's a very different format. And so it's really nice to get to connect um, like this. And I am enjoying it. Okay, so a few different things that I would like to mention about today in terms of it being this turning point. I just had Pluto highlighted there um, because I was saying how it feels like a new year. Right now really has that sort of essence of a turning point. But today, the biggest news, perhaps, of the day is that Mars has retrograded back into Cancer. And so Mars will be retro in Cancer through the end of February. And then, even once Mars does station and begin moving direct, it will be not until late March that Mars is out of Cancer. So, we're really working with this uh, Mars Cancer signature pretty profoundly. One thing that I do think is nice about it is that it's broken up see, I say I don't want to point with my finger, and then look what I'm doing. I'm going to draw it. I'm going to draw it, even though it takes a second. I think the idea behind this daily astrology live chat also is that um, I can be a little bit more casual. I can take time a little bit. So I have to remember that that's true. So it breaks up the Mars Pluto opposition, which had been going on when Mars was in Leo. So depends how you see this and how you feel about this. Well, everyone says that it's an off sign conjunction, or it's an off sign transit, right? It is an off sign transit. So these planets are still within very close degrees of each other. They are still opposed to each other, as we can see, right? But because Mars has moved from that sign, when Mars was at 1 degree of Leo, it was exactly across from this Pluto newly in Aquarius. But now that it's in that off sign, it does feel a little bit different. Oops, excuse me. Knocking my very immature green setup here and shaking the camera. I'm so new to this, guys. But I love astrology. I love getting to talk about astrology with you. So I promise to keep learning and getting better and better. So Mars moving into Cancer does feel like an emotional um, moment. You know, it does feel like an emotional turning point. Um, our emotions are more on the surface for us to work with, which is a really wonderful thing, a really positive thing that I think can sometimes be overlooked about the signature, especially for anyone who sometimes has a hard time accessing their emotions or knowing how they feel, or even if there's a part of your life or a place in your life where it can be a little bit difficult to tap into that. This Mars in Cancer provides an awesome opportunity for that. You know, however, um, emotional reactivity can be stronger. Um, there's something quite protective about Mars in Cancer. Um, but wherever we have Mars retrograde working with us, there's something about the actions in that life area that need a bit of revision. And I feel like with it in Cancer, that all is an emotional process somehow. There's something that we realize about how we feel, our feelings shift and change. That's part of the movement, part of the change. But themes around home, family, sometimes mother can definitely show up with Mars in Cancer, particularly retrograde as well. The big thing though would be to locate this in your chart. Knowing your rising sign is really what's best for that. Talking about horoscopes and how to sort of like read horoscopes and I'm sure most of you know or have heard about how reading for your rising sign is really what's best, and that's because that's the way we relegate the chart. We put your okay, now I need to get rid of that line so that we can see things, and we're going to move on and talk about something else in the chart anyway. We look, we take the sign and we relegate it to the first house. Oh, I should use the little magnifier. You're all very patient. Is this terrible? Tell me what you think about the visuals. I've gotten some positive feedback about it, that it is helpful and that your understanding and the pace can be a little bit slower, but I'm just self-conscious about it. So let me know what you think about the visuals. Is it worth it for me to sort of take the time to do that, or is it distracting, annoying? Tell me how you feel. This channel is really for you. So anyway, we take the sign that we're reading for and we relegate it to the first house. Excuse me. Let me have a quick sip of water. I do get so excited talking about this stuff. So when we put your sign in the first house, it lines everything up so that we're basically taking your chart and the chart of the day and laying them on top of each other. And that's how we can see the life areas that these different transits are impacting, right? So if you know your rising sign, generally it's a good idea to read horoscopes for your rising sign. I would say unless an astrologer says specifically this is for your sun sign, you'll probably find a little bit more accuracy for your rising sign. But it's interesting how astrology is sort of both an art and a science, and we're such participants in it, and that's something that's sort of hard to talk about, hard to explain. I have to think about how to explain it and how to talk about it. But if you're engaging with astrology on a sun sign basis, it will work for you on that level in a way. That's the art side. And if you're at the point with astrology where you're working with your rising sign, it will open up on another level for you there, in my opinion, in my experience. Okay, so we have Mars just moved into Cancer. That's one where it's going to be hanging out for quite a long time. That's one really big and important thing that's going on today. Another is that we have this, we have this Mercury square Neptune that I want to talk about. Mercury square Neptune. Mercury square Neptune. Here we have our Mercury in Sagittarius, finally moving direct, but Mercury has been here in Sagittarius for forever. Squaring Neptune. Square. Sorry for shaking the camera. I'm actually so new to this and so not great at it that I'm kind of enjoying it. There's There's a letting go. I'm practicing letting go and just being comfortable in the uncomfortable or something. No, but it's cool. I really am excited about doing these daily live streams. It's been an adventure, and I feel like I'm getting to know everyone in a different way, and I just be curious to see how this continues to open up. Okay, sorry. Back to Mercury square Neptune. There's something so blurry and so foggy and a little bit confusing when Mercury and Neptune are involved. Neptune sort of brings dreams, for better or worse, and then Mercury is all about our communications, our thoughts. So it's like being able to think and process and speak in a sort of very dreamy way. We can manifest this in different ways. It can be really idolizing the future and coming up with some new plans and visions that can really serve you in like a positive way, in sort of a fantastical way. And maybe you don't end up fully reaching that goal in the end, but you get 90% there. Like it's the, aim for the stars and you land on the moon, or well, I think that saying is the reverse, but aim for the moon and you land among the stars, but the stars are actually way further than the moon. So I think I just said it in reverse. Anyway, Mercury square Neptune, the negative signature of that, the sort of dreaminess and the fogginess of it, is that sometimes it can be sort of a little unclear, confusing, worst case, maybe even a bit like deceptive, something not quite right. I remember having like a little bit of just a tiny little fender bender once when I was having a Neptune aspect, and it was just so hard to see what was happening with the other person. And I think maybe they didn't have insurance or something, and I was being a bit deceived. Like it was just a weird interaction, and you have those weird interactions where something just doesn't feel quite right. Sometimes that can manifest with a Neptune square. But like I said, it can also be having beautiful dreams about the future. So it's a good aspect to know about, and it's not super uncommon, but I do think it's sort of interesting that it's happening right at the same time that the Mars-Pluto opposition broke up and Mars retrograde is now in Cancer. It's just kind of neat timing, I think, for all of that. I also want to mention something that is sort of more ongoing. Why I'm mentioning it today, in a way, I'm not like entirely sure, because this is definitely an ongoing thing, which is Jupiter and Gemini. I guess we are still talking about that Jupiter-Saturn square as well. Ugh, it really is an interesting time. This pace-setting Jupiter-Saturn square. I'm just going to leave the visual the way it is, but you see how Saturn is at 14 degrees, Jupiter is at 12 degrees. So that Jupiter-Saturn square is active as well, just kind of setting the pace, keeping us moving forward, but not too quickly. What I want to say about Jupiter and Gemini today is that there's something, we're talking about the emotional turning point today, how right now is a little bit of an emotional turning point somehow as we get the year off the ground, and to be tapping into our emotions and noticing how we're feeling. Maybe not acting and moving on that today because it's kind of a weird day, but just kind of, tapping into the vibe on that level, on an emotional level. That's a little more available to us than it is every day. And sometimes that's helpful to know about. And what I wanted to say about Jupiter in this mix is that Jupiter and Gemini sometimes can illuminate what we don't like, what doesn't work, because Jupiter isn't really crazy about being in Gemini. It's much happier across the way in Sagittarius. Here in Gemini, that's why when there was a mutual reception between Mercury and Jupiter, it was a little bit powerful. Just a little while ago, because, oh my gosh, I'm going off on way too many tangents. But Jupiter its least favorite place to be is Gemini. And Saturn, or in Mercury, sorry, its least favorite place to be is Sagittarius. But if they're there at the same time, it's a mitigating factor and it makes it easier. It's a mutual reception and they sort of can help each other. It's like if I'm house sitting your house and you're house sitting my house, we can talk and be like, well, did you feed the dog? Yeah, I did. But like, how do you work the oven or whatever? Exchange in that way. And they can sort of somehow make it work, even though they're really uncomfortable in that situation. So that was and is the case, even though they're not exactly opposing each other right now, it's still happening by sign. So, um, but I think it's worth when we're thinking about the emotions, remembering the way in which Jupiter in Gemini is making us aware of what isn't working. Just because that kind of pulls on the emotions in a certain kind of way, doesn't it? Like, it's like, I don't like this, I don't want that. And sometimes we have to do that in order to know what we do want, for sure. It can open up that avenue, but just a few things that I'm sort of putting together for today. My horoscopes on my page are almost finished for January. I mean, what am I doing? It's January 6th, and I still haven't put Capricorn, Aquarius, or Pisces up. But I will say that the first day that I highlighted was today, January 6th, because I covered the Mars Pluto opposition in the December horoscopes. So December was really kind of active until, through early January as well. But still, I aim to get these done sooner. So hopefully, if all goes according to plan, all of the horoscopes will be up by the end of the day tomorrow. And I do talk specifically about where this is falling in your chart. I use visuals. I also put some words up on the screen around it. I'm hoping that that brings clarity. Whatever stage you're in with astrology, if you're just enjoy listening and hearing your horoscope, or if you're sort of learning a bit of astrology yourself, I'm hoping uh, that the visuals are helpful and that I'll get better and better at incorporating them as we go. Does anyone have any questions about anything about the astrology that we see here, or your chart, or anything at all? I certainly don't know. I feel like I keep saying this. I certainly don't know everything about astrology, much less anything else, but this is my favorite stuff to talk about. So I'm always excited to talk about it with you. Check out the horoscopes on my page. I'm also, but for your rising sign for January and December, if you're interested, particularly January now as we're turning over at the 6th here. And hopefully, if all goes according to plan, I will be all done with those by the end of the day tomorrow. And what else? I'm going to link here also at the end of this video to 2 videos I did this week. One is about Venus in Pisces. It'll take a little while for these links to go up. Once the video is processed, I can add them, which takes all kinds of different time. So check out my channel if I haven't been able to post the links yet. But I will link to a video about Venus in Pisces, which is a beautiful, I should have mentioned it in here anyway. Venus in Pisces is such a beautiful aspect. Venus is exalted in Pisces, and just adding like a love and a warmth, that's emotion too. Ooh, I'm so glad I'm mentioning it now. It's a very important part of all this, that Venus in Pisces. So check out that video for more about some things to sort of be looking for during that time, which extends through February and then comes back because Venus will go retrograde this year. It's very exciting in Pisces. And I'm also going to link to yesterday's live stream, which I did from my boat launch. And it's very embarrassing, but it's very, I think it's good for me to kind of just like blow past the thing that made me uncomfortable. I spoke earlier in the week about how there can be something about the Mars and Leo sometimes where we're working with pride. something in our pride could hold us back potentially from doing what we really wanted to do. You know, Pluto in Aquarius is bringing us into the future, giving us ideas about how to move in the future. But when Mars was in Leo, it was almost like there was like sometimes like a pride pulling us back, or worrying about how we'll be seen, you know, as one potential manifestation of that signature. And I felt like I really felt it for myself, because I had this idea to do this live stream every day, really just at the end of December. I guess I'd thought of it before, but it was pretty impulsive. Just like I started this channel, really on an impulse. I had the idea, and by the end of the day, I had the channel and was posting on it. And then uh, that happened as well with doing this daily live stream thing. Aries sun, we like to move quickly. Anyway, had that idea about Pluto and Aquarius, but then my pride was a little bit worried about being seen. And so I'm going to link the lake video here, because it's my most embarrassing. And then that way I'm just kind of ripping that band-aid off, you know. I'm getting over it. I think I am getting over it. And yeah, I'm going to read the comments here really quickly before I get going. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. If someone's a Gemini sun and sort of feeling that Jupiter and seeing what needs to change, absolutely. Especially if it's your sun, you know, it will be like a little bit more obvious to you, because I feel like the sun aspects are always kind of, they jump out at you. And it could be about some sort of, you know, central parts of who you are, you know, of your sort of your identity, um, your purpose, and just getting sort of better aligned with where you really need to be in that way. But I mean, it's so auspicious having Jupiter cross your sun and just be in the same house as your sun, is a really positive thing. It's a real growth thing. But yeah, you hopefully you can feel that growth, you can feel that opportunity. And I bet you're also kind of feeling a little bit of that, you know, what needs to change, seeing what needs to change. Makes a lot of sense. Um, I think that is all I have for you today, friends. If you're watching this later, please feel free to leave any questions in the comments, and then I will get to them another day. You know, the comment sections can be sort of ongoing. I know I'm not live streaming at the same time every day. That's not really helpful, but I don't have it to a routine yet. So it will generally be in the mornings, Eastern time, but not always. And for now, I'm just going to keep that aspect of it loose, but you can watch these anytime. And just thank you so much for being here. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you.